Okay, so we've just finished the thing about descendants for the selectors. Now we're on page 104 talking about a brand new thing. Let's say, for example, I'm going to make this thing a heck of a lot simpler. I'm going to go back to the P tag just to make this simple. And okay, that's good enough. So P tag. So find every P tag and make this thing red. So kind of sort of simple. If it's inside a P tag, you know, if it's inside a UL or a block quote, it doesn't apply. Got it? Cool. But what if I just wanted to, I don't want to take the entire paragraph and make it red. What if I just want one word in there to be red? Okay, just a part of it. Not everything. I want the word another to be in red. Well, remember how we did the style attribute, and the style attribute always starts with a tag? Well, that's not going to work because that'll apply to the entire P tag. So I actually kind of sort of need another tag. So they made up a completely useless tag. They made a tag called span. A span tag. All right. Before I do anything, I'm just going to take this span tag, and actually I'm going to copy this. One with the span tag and one without the span tag. Okay, so I'm going to take all this out. So one of them has a span tag, and the other one doesn't have a span tag. So what's going to be the difference between these two lines? Nothing. There is no difference between these two lines. You know, I'm gonna temporarily take this out, just because that's not more. Okay. So there's no difference between span tags. So no difference in the rendering because of the span tag. So the span tag is just an artificial tag that was created for the sole purpose of you being able to attach a style to part of a line. That's it. So remember, I can go here and do attributes now. I can go in here and say style, colon, yikes. Equals, not colon. Style. Then I can say color, colon, red. So this is going to not turn the entire frickin' thing, just that one piece. Okay, so the purpose for a span tag. What is the purpose for a span tag? Well, it's to provide you an opportunity to attach a style. That's it. It's just a naked tag that doesn't do anything at all by itself. Just like the div tag. Remember the div tag? I'm going to change this to div. Okay, up here. Div tag. Okay, so I have a div tag here and a p tag. Div tag doesn't do anything. It, just like span, is just a mechanism for attaching a style. That's all it does. Okay. Now, you could, instead of doing it this way with inline, you could have done it a little bit more sophisticated. You could have done like a red text thing again. So instead of having embedded, we would say here, and I would say class equals red text. That would be better than doing the embedded. Then I would have to go back up to here and say dot, remember dot, red text, curly braces, and then color equals red. Okay, that's actually better than this technique. It'll render the same. Yay! Okay, cool. All right. So, I'm not trying to drill this into your poor little head, although, yes, I am. What's the purpose of a div tag and a span tag? Well, by themselves, they do no formatting whatsoever. They're just like a platform for an opportunity for you to attach a style to something. That's it. That's all they do. Okay, cool. Alrighty. So finally we get to the point where we talk about external style sheets. So I could put all of this into a separate style sheet. So first what I'm going to do a right click over here, and I want a new, because I'm going to create a new file, right? So I'll do add, and I'm just going to grab style sheet, and I could call this practically anything, but I'm going to call it something like main or I don't know. Main sounds good. Main or standard or format or, primary, something that lets me know that, and it picked, for some reason, it picked body. So I'm going to change this back to dot red text. And then notice how here it uses that curly brace notation in indentation I was telling you about. And I kind of let it do that. If it wants to do that, then fine. So here I'm going to go here and say color colon red. All right, I'm going to save this guy. I'm going to go back to my index file. And instead of me putting this here, I'm going to take this out. Okay. And instead, I'm going to use a link tag. We haven't done this before. This is, by the way, if you're keeping count, link is one of the tags. This is the third one that's what's called a self-closing tag. In other words, it doesn't appear in two parts. Okay. Meta was one of them. The other one was break. And this is the third one called link. So, link has two parts. One is it's called a relationship or a rel. And basically what you're doing is you're telling it, what the heck am I linking? Well, I'm linking a style sheet. So you have to basically tell it, what is, okay, I'm getting ready to link something, but what is it? Is it an Excel spreadsheet? You know, what is it? Well, it's a style sheet. Space. And then I'm going to tell it how to get there. So href. Remember how we did this with the A tag? Go. And then I'm going to just pick main CSS. Cool. So now, when this thing loads, it's going to pull up this main CSS, which basically has the code for red text. And then it's going to go through and find anything that has red text in it, and then do that. So let's run this. And ta-da! It worked. Okay. So that's another technique, separating it out. I actually like that a lot. So, let's talk about why. So this allows me to make changes to multiple pages. If I had decorated this class throughout my entire page, every single page in my website had one of these things in it, then now I'm back to click one and done. I go to this one CSS file, I change that to blue, and boom, presto, hundreds of files now start rendering in blue rather than red. So this is fantastic if you have a website that has like 100 pages. Oh man, you definitely want to do this external thing. Particularly if you want everything to be absolutely the same. For example, I talked about in one of my web pages, I want this header, this link bar to be absolutely identical. I want this to be identical on every single page. I don't want any changes whatsoever. I don't want to accidentally introduce something that's slightly different. You know, and copying and pasting is kind of error prone. But if I use an external CSS to do this, woohoo! Then not only do I get click one and done, I also get, there's no way I can have things different on the pages. All of them are going to be absolutely the same. Cool. All right. So advantages and disadvantages, basically, yeah, there's an extra advantage. Your browser caches files. In other words, the server says, hey, fetch me this thing. And it's going to give you the HTML document. And then after the HTML document is received, the machine's going to start pulling down like the CSS file, maybe your JPEG files and PNG files and whatever else kind of files you got. Okay. It's going to cache those up. So if you went to another page and it said, oh, here's the content of my web page and here's my CSS file, your machine's going to say, dude, I already got that. I'm cool. And not pull it down a second time. So using an external file actually makes websites run faster because it's already cached. I already have something called main CSS. There's no need for me to download that over and over and over. I'll just download it once and remember it. It makes things a heck of a lot faster. The slower the link you're in, the more you'd want to use this external stuff. Okay, let's talk about how you can configure a web page to be kind of sort of like this. This is a centered web page. I have what's called a fixed width web page. It starts right here and then it goes all the way to right here, and it doesn't fill the entire browser. Now, this is actually kind of, sort of a good idea. Later on, we're going to talk about the different types. There's fixed like this, one called fluid and one called elastic. And we'll talk about why there's each different type a little bit later. So right now, I want to talk about how we can do this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go here and I'm going to create me a class called, I guess in this particular case, I'm going to make it an ID, and I'm going to call it centered. That sounds good, centered. Okay, so I need a series of things to have this thing happen. First of all, I have to tell it that the width of my web page is fixed. So width is, I'm gonna pick a number. I'm gonna pick 960 pixels. Remember, there's no space between the thing. Remember, now I can have multiple one of these things. I could do like this. Now, a lot of people, when you're using this style, they put the next one on the next line. They don't go all the way across. So width is 960. Cool. The next thing I want to do is I want to tell it what the left and right margins are. So margin left, I could go in here and just say automatic. And automatic basically means you figure it out. I've told you the width, and you just figure out, a 960 pixel. In other words, I don't have to do the math. If you have a really wide screen, okay, it may be 40. If you have a real narrow screen, that value could be 10, like it was in that example there. So margin right, margin left. Whoops. Auto. All right, cool. So now I have something. So remember those div tags that don't do anything? Cool. Well, I'm going to go right here, and I'm going to create me a div tag. Whoa. Div tag. And I'm going to wrap everything in my entire body inside this one guy. So I'm just going to say boink, boink. So everything in the body of my of my web page is wrapped around a div tag. And remember, I use the pound sign. So which one of those should I use here? Should it be the ID or the class? Yeah, ID. And I'm going to say centered. Okay. So let's render this and see how it's going to work. And it doesn't look that much difference. And everything worked. It's just the problem is this screen is already 1024. So when I told it to size for 1024 and it was already 1024, in fact, I'd be kind of surprised if it did make a difference. So we're going to have to use our imagination a little bit. An easy way to do this is I'm just going to arbitrarily change this to, like, I don't know, 560, some sort of a number. Let's go back. I'm going to render this in the browser, and it's going to be scooted over a bunch now. I don't have that many long lines, so you really can't see the right margin, but you can just use your imagination. What we told the machine is to make the web page fixed, put it in the center of the screen. Now, there's a lot of reasons why you might want to do this, and a lot of it just has to do with convenience. The issue is, I want to know in advance what my web page is going to look like. I mean, I really want to know. If I'm on a really, really wide screen and I had the other type where it just flowed from margin to margin, things may look ridiculous. Things on top of each other and looks dumb. Similar to that is if I'm on a phone and I'm holding it in the portrait mode, then things are going to look equally bizarre being stretched out. So this technique allows you to pick exactly the width you want, and what you see on the screen while you're developing is what you're going to get on the browsers. I know that it's not a very sophisticated technique, but it's out of convenience alone, it's probably a good idea. That's what I'm going to require you to do in future assignments, is come up with a fixed width. We're going to throw some other things in there, but a fixed width page. Okay, we've reached the end of a 15-minute mark. We'll pick this thing up again in just a few.